Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the story of a man who was, well, a living paradox, Diego Maradona. He was a footballing god who played with the heavens at his feet, and at the same time, a defiant rebel who lived by his own rules, no matter what the cost.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We have to start with the big question, the one that really defines his entire legacy. How on earth does one guy become both a saint and a sinner to millions of people?
Because look at this. On one side, you have the divine artist, El Pibe de Oro, the golden boy, a savior who lifted an entire city, a World Cup champion. And on the other side of the coin, the rule breaker, the guy who cheated, battled a crippling addiction, and was in a constant state of defiance.
To really understand the legend, you have to start with the genius. And his was a talent that honestly seemed to come from another planet.
I mean, his rise was just absolutely meteoric. This kid came from a poor shanty town in Buenos Aires, one of 8 children. But by the time he was just 16 years old, he was already a professional. And by 25, he was literally on top of the world, having conquered the biggest prize in all of football.
And if you want to see both Diegos in action, all you have to do is look at a single game, the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal. First, you get the cheat. He literally punches the ball into the net for the infamous Hand of God goal. But then, just 4 minutes later, pure, undisputed genius. He dribbles past what feels like the entire English team to score the goal of the century. The sinner and the saint, all in the span of a few minutes.
And this call, it just perfectly captures the kind of awe his talent inspired. The commentary for that goal wasn't just a description of a play, it was basically a prayer. This guy was so good he made people seriously question if he was even from this world.
But you know, his talent wasn't just for winning World Cups. It had the power to transform an entire city and become this huge symbol of social rebellion. So, in 1984, he moves to the Italian club Napoli for a world record fee. And get this, 75,000 fans packed the stadium. Not for a match, mind you, but just to see him for the first time. For a club that had never won the league, the expectations were just off the charts.
And to really get this, you have to understand the context. Naples was this poor, southern city, constantly looked down on by the wealthy, powerful northern clubs like Juventus and AC Milan. So Maradona didn't just join a team, he became the patron saint of a cause. He was leading a fight against the establishment.
And boy, did he deliver. He gave Napoli the most successful period in its entire history. 2 league titles, a domestic cup, and a European trophy. In Naples, he wasn't just a player. He was a deity, the man who made the impossible happen for a city that felt totally forgotten.
But that same fire that fueled his genius on the field also led to a life of pure chaos off of it. His time at the very top was completely inseparable from his personal demons.
His life off the pitch really was a constant battle. His cocaine addiction started when he was at Barcelona and just spiraled out of control in Naples. That led to a 15-month ban in 1991. Then, just 3 years later, he gets kicked out of the 1994 World Cup for doping. Add millions in unpaid taxes and, yes, literally shooting at reporters with an air rifle, and you see a man who was just constantly at war.
But here's the thing about Maradona. He was brutally honest about it all. He never hid from his flaws or tried to pretend he was some perfect role model. He owned his demons, even when he couldn't beat them.
And that right there is the key to his whole mindset. Even his most controversial moments were, in his mind, acts of defiance. He saw the hand of God not as cheating, but as symbolic justice against England for the Falklands War. For him, everything was a fight. And this rebellious spirit, it wasn't just personal, it was deeply political. He was a champion for the underdog because, well, he never forgot where he came from.
He didn't just talk about his politics, he literally wore them on his skin. He saw himself as a voice for the poor and the oppressed, and he became close friends with Latin American left-wing leaders like Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. I mean, he actually had Che Guevara tattooed on his arm and Castro on his leg.
Yeah, he was never subtle. He used his massive global platform to shout his anti-establishment views from the rooftops, famously calling George W. Bush human trash and leading protests against him.
So, after all this, the genius, the controversy, the politics, how do you even begin to make sense of such a larger-than-life, contradictory person?
So, who was he? Was he the hero or the villain? The god who performed miracles on the pitch, or the sinner who fell so hard from grace?
Well, the truth is, he was all of them. At the same time, his contradictions weren't a flaw in his story, they were the story. You can't separate the two Diegos. The divine skill and the destructive impulse came from the exact same passionate, rebellious heart. His legacy is so powerful precisely because it's messy, because it's so profoundly human. He was the artist on the pitch, the savior in Naples, the rebel against authority, and the revolutionary for the people. And think about it, even his death in 2020 sparked a huge national investigation, proving his story still provokes passion and controversy to this day.
He was a flawed god, for sure. But this final tribute from his greatest rival, Pelé, kind of leaves you with one big question. At the end of the day, do we want our heroes to be perfect? Or do we love them more for their beautiful, chaotic, and very, very human struggle?